generally hard chargers who've generally burned themselves out, who've gotten themselves into a bad place and have a hard time, are just having a hard time getting in a good place, right? And they're not getting the results that they want. That's generally what I cater to. That's generally what my entire business model has catered to over the last 20 or so years. And obviously, I've worked in medical practice for the last 3 years, and I helped, you know, people that were in a really bad place figure out what was going on. And that's kind of what I do. That's what I do best. I have a men's and women's group, Vitality Brotherhood, Vitality Sisterhood. But, I live in Nicaragua and I moved here to open a gym on the beach. And there isn't a day goes by where I don't get a message or an email or something saying, hey, tell me about Nicaragua. Do you like it? Would you do it again? What would you do differently? That sort of thing. And I'm one of these people that like to live in the present. I like to look forward, but I've been thinking a lot about this, and I thought I would go over kind of generally where I'm at, what I could do differently if I could do it again, and what I've learned since I've gotten here. The number one thing I've learned is do not take people's word for things. You need to experience things on your own. So originally I was supposed to move to a resort. I'd been there, I'd visited it, I'd read about it, I've talked to some different people, but you really need to be somewhere for a couple months and get on the forums, get in there and really talk to people, and you'll find out what's really going on. I moved there. I was told the internet was great. It was not. It was horrible. And that was fine. I learned that I didn't really want to live in a resort. You have to kind of figure that out for yourself. But if I would have known how bad the internet is in some places in Nicaragua. Generally, if you stay in the big cities, it's really good. Like the fiber connection I have right now is incredible. It's taking me a year and a half to find that. Now, the connection I've had since I moved here has been decent, but it's nowhere the quality that I have right now. And then even then, the power goes out a lot. So where I live, so you need to have a battery bank. You can buy those here at PriceSmart. But if I could do it over again, I would have brought a Starlink with me. Now, they didn't have the mini when I moved here, but they had a regular one, and they just look like a giant iPad. I would have brought that with me. The mini now makes it a lot easier. You could put it in your backpack. It looks like an iPad. They're not even going to blink an eye at you over it. And that way you have a guaranteed good connection anywhere in the world. If you're going to be a digital nomad and you're going to move around, I would definitely have a Starlink Mini, because that way, if your internet connection is not good, you have a guaranteed internet connection anywhere in the world. You could pause the monthly payments. And I've talked to people that have RVs that use the Starlink Mini here in Nicaragua, and it works perfectly fine. So I would have that as a backup plan. And then I would also, I followed a bunch of people. Scott Allen Miller is one of the people I followed before I moved down here. I had done a lot more research than most people had, but I didn't get on a call with him. And he's very generous. If you buy him a couple cups of coffee, he'll get on a call with you and talk to you. And I really should have said to him, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is where I plan on going. This is what I plan on doing. And he would have said, hey, this is what I've heard about this place, or this is what you need to watch out for. So I would have probably spent more time. I would have stayed in the States for longer, and I would have come down and spent a couple weeks at every different location before I took the big plunge down here. But at the same time, I was looking for a major change. I had a steady job on my own. I was working for a medical doctor. So I was like, okay, I've got consistent income. This is the time to do it. So I did. And I had my dog, Rommel, who's still here. And so, if I didn't have the dog, flying down would have been a much better option. It would have been much cheaper. I spent a lot of money moving down here, and so that's money I could have saved. So that's something I ideally probably should have waited till Rommel passed, and then came down here flying, right? And then also, you really don't need a lot of stuff to move to a place like this. You just need like your laptop, backup phone. You need a backup phone. So you can, if you lose your phone or your phone stops working, you can switch it over. You also want to make sure you have backup codes for every one of your accounts, so that if you do lose your phone, they do this 2-step verification thing. That's been one of the most challenging things I've dealt with since I've been here. Is like for the last month, I haven't had a phone. And so that's been very difficult. I lost all my contacts. I haven't been able to get in most of my accounts. I've been locked out of for a month, and it's almost impossible to contact customer support unless you have um, access to your account. Most of these places don't even have 1-800 numbers anymore that you can call. And if you do, you end up talking to some AI machine, and it takes you forever to get through. And a lot of times, you can't call over the internet, or you can't call a 1-800 number from a Nicaraguan number. What happened is I ended up having a friend of mine go to the AT&T store, and I called her via WhatsApp, and then the lady at the store couldn't help me because I had to be there with my driver's license in person, but she called AT&T for me, and I talked to AT&T through WhatsApp through the speakerphone. And finally, I should have a phone here this week, but that's been a massive, massive inconvenience and a problem. So make sure if you are going to go to Central America, have a backup phone with you that you can call them and say, hey, switch it over. I lost my phone or it quit working, and have all the codes or have your verification set up for your email, so that you don't need because I have all my passwords. I just can't log in without the text. They send you a text to your phone. And so have all that set up ahead of time. And then also come down and visit different places before you make the permanent move. I think being a tourist here is incredible. It's an incredible option, moving and living in different places. And having the Starlink allows you to be flexible like that. You're not stuck to one location because you don't know what kind of internet quality you're going to have if you go to live in Ometempe, or if you go somewhere remote, which is, Multigalpa or something like that, where you might not have as good of internet connection, or where I was living near Playa San Diego. If you've got that Starlink, you've got great internet connection. And if your living depends on being on the internet, you definitely want to have that good internet connection. I found for me personally, living in an area like where I am, where you're living in a middle class, most of your neighbors are like, most of my neighbors here are farmers, but like in town, if you go to like Masaya or Ginatope or anything like that, or even Managua, if you live in an area where there's doctors, lawyers, attorneys, you get to know people, you get to know, you have connections. You still get like, I can go to Masaya and go to the mall. I can go to Pizza Hut. I can go, if I want to get sushi in Managua, that's only a half an hour away. So, and I can go to a regular mall and walk around in the mall, which is nice, a nice change every once in a while. I love living in a rainforest. I love living in the jungle here. I love that it's a little more remote, but I also like having an ATM 5 minutes down the road where I could walk to the ATM if I had to. There's a Western Union literally 10 minutes down the road that I could wire money to myself, or someone could wire money to me. Whereas where I was living before, it was 45 minutes to the nearest ATM. It was an hour and a half. It was all I had to come to Managua to go to a Western Union. So you got to think about these things, where you're going to live. I want to get to know the locals. I want to get to know the community. I originally was going to move down here to open a gym. Now I've had some different doors open up that that's all in the works right now, and it's a big mess. So I'm not going to talk much about it publicly, but I have some pretty amazing opportunities in the works that are really, really interesting and unique. So that would be my big deal, is like, do a little more research before you come down, like talk to people like Scott Allen Miller, visit different places. I would live somewhere for a couple months before you do a permanent move. And then don't be afraid to be a tourist. Don't be afraid to bounce around, and get yourself a Starlink Mini. I wish I could get like a referral fee for that, but you want to have that, especially if you're going to be a digital nomad. Make sure you have backups for all your accounts so you aren't stuck in two-step verification hell if you lose your phone. Make sure you have plenty of cash on hand. Another tip that is really good if you're going to come down here and move down here is, if you withdraw cash from the ATM, they hit you with a fee here and then a fee at home. So it almost like $10 every time you withdraw money. You can Western Union yourself money. If you do it on their app, it's like $2.99 to $4.99, I think is the most expensive. So you're better off Western Unioning yourself a bunch of money like once a month than you are going to the ATM constantly. It'll save you a lot more money. So there's a good tip for you. And then, other than that, get to know some local people, move down here, talk to people, get to know some locals. they'll usually you can hook yourself up with you can get hooked up with a driver or something like that, like somebody like Scott Allen Miller or myself that knows a lot of people around. I know drivers in Grenada, I know drivers in Managua, I know drivers where I used to live that are reliable, that have good information, that aren't going to lead you astray. You get hooked in with a good driver, it could save you from a lot of discomfort and inconvenience. So I thought it'd be fun to hop on here and answer a few questions. But if I could do it over again, I'd have probably waited to move down here until my dog passed away. Who knows how longer he's going to live for? He's superhuman. That way I could have flown down here. I probably would have lived in different spots in Nicaragua before I moved down. But then again, I thought I was going to build a gym. I was bound and determined to do that. And then obviously the universe decided that wasn't what I'm here for. I think I'm here for some different reasons, which are much bigger than an outdoor gym, which are pretty cool and exciting. But make sure you have a plan and a backup plan for internet, especially if you're going to live in more remote areas. Have a backup, have that Starlink, because if you, like, I've really struggled making content in the last year because the audio and video quality was not very good. And I think that's hurt a lot of my views. And then consistency too. Like that's a big part of it, is I need to be more consistent with my content creation and all that good stuff. So thanks for tuning in. If you have any more questions, whether it's about your health and wellness or coaching, you can go to Vitality Brotherhood. You can join Vitality Brotherhood or Sisterhood. Feel free to comment below, no matter where you're watching this. Be happy to answer your questions about health and wellness or Nicaragua. Happy to help in any way that I can. So have yourself a great day. Make sure you take the time to get outside today, and I will talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching.